Okay, council members, we're missing a council member. We're just going to go ahead and get started. A drink, oh, okay. Thank you. We will go ahead and get started this evening, calling this council meeting to order on Tuesday, June 6th for the town of Gilbert. We will start with our invocation by council member Scott Anderson, please. No, you're fine right here. Thank you.
Please join us in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this opportunity we have to be meeting together this evening. We are thankful for the many blessings that we enjoy, especially this time, the moisture that we've received and the relief it has brought to the valley. We are so thankful for that. And pray that will continue, that we might be able to enjoy the lifestyle that we have all established over the years. We're thankful for those who participate in the public process, and pray they'll bless each one, that their needs and their desires might be met, and that we might have good conversations that will build this community and continue to bless the lives of those who live here. Again, we are thankful for this opportunity this evening. May we have wisdom in the things that we say and do. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Next, we will have Councilmember Buckley lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, if I could please ask Town Clerk Herrera to do the roll call.
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Chuck Bongiovanni.
Here.
Councilmember Bobby Buckley.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Kaprowski.
Here.
And Councilmember Jim Torgerson. A quorum is present.
Thank you, Chiavelli. Now we have one proclamation on our agenda this evening. It is a proclamation declaring June 2023 as Gilbert Leadership Month. I will present to the Gilbert Leadership Board Chair, Deb Carr. So, Deb, if you could make your way down to the front. And any members of Class 31, the current class, and any alumni from Gilbert Leadership that would like to join us down on the floor, please. Oh, thank you. Deb's not here. Okay. So Deb Carr couldn't join us this evening, but we have Jamie Johnson, who is here on behalf of the board, and Sarah Watts. She's like, I'm like, where are you? Sarah Watts, President and CEO of the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce. Gilbert Leadership is a program of the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and most of this group right here is in the current class, and then some of us are alumni of the program. Patrick's alumni of the program. And Kathy Tilkey, Vice Mayor, did you ever think that we would be proclaiming a month for Gilbert Leadership when you started this program 31 years ago? So you need to come over here and get someone else to take a photo for us, please, because you're in this year's class also. I knew she'd try to get out of it. What? Oh, Chief, where's Chief? Where's Chief? Both my chiefs are alumni. Come on now. Whereas the annual Gilbert Leadership Program is managed under the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce since its inception 31 years ago, and whereas the Gilbert Leadership Program is designed to challenge, educate, and weave a class of diverse individuals representing the many fabrics of Gilbert, and whereas class members take part in team building and community-centric learning days designed to expand their knowledge and leadership traits while fostering strong and lasting connections with a network of leaders and the community. And whereas the Gilbert Leadership is organized and managed by a board of volunteers who plan impactful experiences that explore Gilbert's history, government, education, economic development, public safety, health and wellness, and nonprofit organizations. And whereas class members expand and refine their leadership skills by conceiving, planning, and implementing a group project that is executed together and that benefits the community. And whereas Class 31, hashtag 31 Saves One, the current leadership class project focused on increasing mental health awareness in the community by providing free QPR training, free Hope kits, and by planning, designing, and installing Gilbert's own Hope Walk, a fully accessible 0.75-mile loop trail within Gilbert's Riparian Preserve that highlights positive messaging, mental health and well-being tips, and a hope-inspired mural. And now, therefore, I, Bridget Peterson, Mayor of the Town of Gilbert, do hereby proclaim June 2023 Gilbert Leadership Month in Gilbert, Arizona, and extend the community's appreciation to the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce and 640-plus program graduates, many of whom have become leaders within our community and across our region and state, for the program's success, and encourage community members interested in the program to reach out to the Gilbert Chamber to learn more and apply, as the application process is currently open for Class 32. I read this on my phone before, but I didn't get that far. So very good work, Kirsten. The mayor's office doesn't always write the proclamations, but when they do, they're top notch. So I will present this to you, Jamie Johnson, who I served on the board with when I was the chair of this program. Also, thank you all for coming out this evening. Would you like to say something? You're past chair now, right? Yes.
Yeah. No, I just want to thank the community. I want to thank the chamber, all of our leaders, everybody who's gone through the program. This program has produced incredible people in the community. So if you are looking to get involved, please apply for Class 32. But thank you so much for your support. I'm on the board because you encouraged me to apply. So thank you for all of your support.
I also taught you the trick that if in your 6th year you were chair, that you got 1 extra year, 7 years on the board. That's a little trick that we learned. So thank you for all you do, and it really is a fully volunteer-run program, and the learning days wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the board members. And I'm so proud of Class 31, and I can't wait to be at your graduation soon, very soon. All right, big photo. We're going to have to move over that way, so we're centered in front of the town seal up there. Casey's taking selfies. Casey's taking selfies. Oh, probably because you're taking them or something, right? Yeah.
Good.
All right.
So Marty, come up next to Mayor. Okay. Marty,
Tiffany.
we have high in the back.
Behind you. Please. Thank you all. Congratulations. Yay. Yay.
I'll send you the photo, Sarah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Next, we will have communications from citizens. I'll ask the Vice Mayor to please handle that.
Thank you, Mayor. The Gilbert Town Council values citizens' comments and input. Anyone wishing to speak before the council must fill out a request to speak card for each item they wish to speak on and submit it to the town clerk or place it in a bin provided prior to the start of the meeting. The communications from citizens portion on the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concern related to government that are not on the printed agenda. Under the provisions of the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. At the conclusion of the open call to public, response is limited to individual members of the council responding to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, asking staff to review a matter, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. The town asks that when your name is called, you come forward to the podium, state your name and place of residence, and then begin speaking. All speakers are expected to observe common standards of decorum and courtesy. Personal attacks, political speeches, or threats of political action are inappropriate in the forum and will be grounds for ending a speaker's time at the podium. So you'll be given 3 minutes when I call your name. If you'll come forward, the first person will want to turn on the mic, and you'll know the mic is live when it's red, like this. And you'll see the timer on your screen. And the first to speak this evening is Jennifer Schikowski. Would you come forward? And following Jennifer is Lark Gaddis. Is Jennifer here? Oh, okay. If you'll come up to this one, please. Thank you, Jennifer.
Jennifer Snigowski. Mayor Peterson, tear down the blue tarps. As a longtime Gilbert resident who lives in the nearby area, I'm tired of looking at the blue tarps. What is the plan for this corner? The citizens of Gilbert have put up with this for far too long. That's all.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Just leave
Yep,
it on.
you can just leave that on. Thank you so much. Next, Mr. Gaddis, and following will be Terry Natty.
Mark Gaddis, Mayor, council members. As a longtime resident of Gilbert, I feel compelled to share my observations regarding public image, our public image. Over the past few years, I have seen Gilbert get dragged into the pattern of cultural bullying that is tearing down billion-dollar businesses across our country and dividing neighbors all across the nation. Your social media has portrayed Gilbert as standing with George Floyd and kneeling with BLM. That portrays us as a community that is woke as can be. And I'm literally stunned that our police and the majority of our citizens would feel that strategy necessary, and I frankly doubt that they do. You've told us through social media where to shop. You've told us to shop at Target, highly recommended, with their openly aggressive merchandising of transsexual attire to young people. Previously, BLM influenced support of exclusively supporting black-owned businesses, and that's great, but it shouldn't be exclusive. Why are we taking political positions and empowering only certain types of businesses? The water tower is also becoming something to count on when it comes to promoting rainbow lighting. I had no idea that there were so many causes searching out Gilbert to light for their particular special interests. I question whether this represents the feelings of our citizens at large. I wish you would praise the citizens and employees of this town rather than stand on a virtue signaling platform, reaching out only to select groups of your own political choosing. You're dividing us far more than you're uniting us. I know of no one that is truly prejudiced. I don't. But I do know a lot of longtime Gilbert residents who are feeling marginalized by years of our public face embracing everyone but them. I know many whose eyes roll, frankly, when they get another Facebook update. Please consider your longtime residents who apparently pay people to tell the world who we are. And many times we aren't that. Please stop speaking for us in this manner. The town of Gilbert is a cosmopolitan community. We are a microcosm of Arizona society. We love our community and we welcome everyone, not just special interest groups. Our public image
Mr.
should
Gaddy,
reflect that.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up.
Vice Mayor.
And I'm done, thank you.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, I apologize. Our timer screen is stuck, so I believe he has a little bit more time. We're
Oh,
getting
I'm-
IT out here. I apologize.
Please continue, I'm so sorry.
You were right at the end. I was going to say thank you, and that's all I had left. So we're
Okay,
good.
I'm so sorry, thank you very much.
Thank
I just saw that it had gone off, thank you.
Leave the red light on?
Yes, please, thank you so much. Ms. Natty, you're next, and following is Casey Kendall.
Good evening. My name is Terry Natty. I live in a county island within the Gilbert planning area. Thank you for saying what so many people won't. I want to start by apologizing to you, Councilman Anderson. Last time I spoke, I said former Councilman Anderson, and I meant former Councilman September. So I apologize for that. I misspoke. So thank you for the smile. When I was referencing that, I was referencing WW 1060. And I'd like to commend the staff members that came up with so many different design options for that particular CIP project. 10, they came up with 10. They came up with straight lines and angles and all kinds of fun stuff. I wonder if that staff member no longer works for Gilbert, because that staff member was definitely not one of the staff members that redrew the Ocotillo Road when council asked staff to address that issue and see if they could take less property. Where was that person? That's the person that I'd like for you to have a conversation with. I personally, I'm not against progress. Last time I was up here, I had my mother-in-law with me. She uses a walker. She needs sidewalks. She'd use them. I'm not opposed to the progress. I am opposed to the excess. I've said that so many times, and I can't reiterate it enough. I am not opposed to this project. You have a lot of CIP projects on your agenda tonight that you want to talk about. I wonder if any one of those CIP projects will affect somebody like they affected me. You guys are going to vote on something, and then the person that it affects finds out months later, and then they can't do anything because that vote can't be rescinded. Well, I didn't want you to rescind a vote. I want you to change something. There has to be a word, a special word, similar to rescind, but not rescind, that you guys can do. I'm upset that you all were told that minutes before the regular session where my project was on the agenda. You had no time to do anything but trust what you were told. You had no opportunity to verify, to ask questions. And I'm getting a head nod here. I know I'm right. So what is it? What staff members have, what kind of dirt on you guys that you can't make this happen? I don't want to go to court. I will. I don't want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Natty. Next up is Casey Kendall, followed by Rohit Rain.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Casey Kendall, Gilbert resident. In November, my neighbors and I introduced to the previous council a recovery house that was causing chaos in our neighborhood. We shared different police incidents that included violence, gang graffiti, and the annihilation of our parks and neighborhoods so that patients could no longer stash drugs and alcohol. Our quiet, perfect neighborhood was transformed overnight when level 3 sex offenders were deliberately placed next to our park without regard by a business owner looking to make a cheap, quick buck in a modern-day slave trade and human trafficking scam. The response from the mayor this council and town staff and the police chief were swift, and we appreciate your time and attention given to the seriousness of this matter. This not only affects my neighborhood, but 101 other neighborhoods in our great town. Since the introduction, our police department has identified different ways to work with the Arizona Department of Health Safety to address bad actors in this industry and take control of the chaos. I believe those steps are working and will continue to work with DHS to make a difference. Thank you, Chief Solenberg, for taking the time to present your solutions to us directly. This is an industry that has been identified by Governor Hobbs and Attorney General Mays as a stunning, quote, stunning failure of government, costing taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars through an access program. The results so far are 45 indictments that includes fraud, human trafficking, and kidnapping on a scale that's never been seen before. This fight is not over. The chaos continues in my neighborhood with more graffiti, more criminal activity, and police involvement. Native Americans in and outside of our states have been kidnapped from their homes, targeted in their neighborhoods, and in some cases are still missing because of the price access was paying per patient. We must, as citizens, protect our Native American communities and protect our neighborhoods. Again, I want to personally thank Mayor Peterson, Councilman Chuck Bongiovanni, Vice Mayor Tilke, Councilmember Torgerson, and the rest of the council for your attention in this matter, Gilbert Town staff and Police Chief Solberg for the attention in this matter. And I would urge you to continue to support the state's effort to weed out bad actors who mean to harm our people and our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kendall. Next is Mr. Rain.
Good evening. My name is Rohit. We recently moved from California to the town of Gilbert. Respected council members, honorable dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and express my opinion. We live in the nearby community called Warner Meadows. While I wish here to clarify that we do not propose any new development in the area, I do have few suggestions which I believe would enhance the proposed plan at the Morrison Ranch. I heard there is a commercial plan coming up, and I do have few suggestions over it. It is my understanding that the development is spread across 310 acres, out of which only 15% is designated for multifamily purpose. Allow me to present my recommendations for the proposed plan. My proposal number 1, we should be dividing the multifamily 2-story zones into 2 phases. One phase can be kept near East Mosquito Street, whereas the other phase can be moved to the East Warner Road. This arrangement will allow inclusion of generic commercial and mixed-use element zones, separating these 2 components. My proposal number 2, I propose relocating the generic commercial zone from intersection of East Warner Road and South Power Road to the area near South 180th Street and East Warner Road. This adjustment would subsequently relocate the restricted light industrial zone into generic commercial area. And my proposal number 3 is I propose multi-family 2-story zones at the South 180th Street, and the other zones can be relocated towards the East Warner Road side. I want to emphasize that these proposals are not mere whims, but rooted in with the valid reasons that should be taken into the account. Firstly, the South 180th Street serves as a vital thoroughfare for the neighboring communities and frequently used by commuters during the morning rush hours, as well as schools for the bus transportations. Secondly, my proposals, if those are implemented, the movement of heavy trucks would be redirected to the South Power Road, which is a big road, compared to the smaller South 180th Street, which is not absolutely suitable for large vehicles or heavy trucks or medium trucks. Incorporating the aforementioned proposals not only ensures the practicality but also adds to the aesthetic appeal of the proposed plan. By thoughtfully addressing the traffic patterns and relocating the commercial, multifamily, and mixed-use zones, we can cultivate a balanced, safe, and visually captivating environment which caters to the need of residents, fostering the welcoming environment for all. We call it as a home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rain. Mayor, that is all of the communications from citizens. I was wondering, I thought I saw Chief Solberg get up after Ms. Schakowsky. So I don't know if you could connect and let her know what's happening on that lot, just as a follow-up. And Kyle, perhaps you could get with Mr. Rain and take his comments just so that you would have those. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next, we'll move on to our consent calendar, and back to you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items that will be pulled from our consent agenda. Item number 3 by Council Member Bongiovanni, and item 16 by Council Member Kaprowski. And with that, I'd make a motion to approve the consent items number 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaprowski. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Mayor, Councilman Bongiovanni would like to address item number 3.
Yeah, is there a staff member that can help with this one? Chief Duggan? Evening, Chief. I just want you to know I am all for this program, but I have a couple questions. Are we currently working with this company with any of the fire stations currently?
We are not.
We are?
We are not.
We are not. Were you aware that on their website, it does state that they're working with 2 of the fire stations already?
I'm not familiar what the website states. The locations that we're going to put this equipment, one of those is going to be at a fire station, the other is going to be at the public safety training facility.
Okay. It does say that we're already working with them on two of the stations. I appreciate the marketing strategy of this company, offering a free donation for 6 months, but what is the cost after 6 months? Do we know that?
There is no cost other than the equipment's actually being donated. The only costs we have are the electrical cost to run the equipment.
Will there be costs after the 6 months?
There will not.
Okay, excellent. Okay. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilman Bongiovanni, would you like to make a motion, or?
Yeah, help me out with this one. To approve item number 3.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bongiovanni, seconded by Councilmember Buckley. Please vote. We can't vote. Oh, there it is. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Mayor, our next item is item number 16, Councilmember Kaprowski.
Item number 16 is for the capital improvement plan. I've asked to abstain from this vote due to potential conflict of interest as owner of an engineering company that provides public works projects. Thank you.
With that, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 16.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Bongiovanni. Please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with an abstention by Councilmember Kaprowski.
Okay, gotcha. Mayor, just a correction, that was a 6-0 vote.
Excuse me, 6-0. I was looking at the one, sorry, thank you.
Confused.
Thanks for catching that, Chiavelli. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for handling those items. Now we'll move on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. We have a few items on our agenda. I just want to see if there are items that the council would like to pull to discuss separately, or any that we could maybe bundle together. We have 22, the annexation, 23, GP and zoning, 24, zoning, 25, code for Gilbert boards and commissions. That's the creation of the Public Works Board. 26, budget for PKIDs, if I have them in the right order. Oh, street lights, thank you. And 27 for budget for PKIDs. I knew I had them in the wrong order when I said that. You need to turn your microphone on if you have a question, please. Thank you, because sorry.
Someday. Are we pulling out the one for the budget?
The regular budget is 28 and 29. That's not part of the public hearing process. Those will be handled separately.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So my questions are on the several that are under public hearing, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Seeing none? Oh. Which one? 22, 23, and 24? 22, 23, and 24. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I will open the public hearing on 25, 26, 27, close the public hearing, and ask if anyone would like to make a motion on those three together.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Anderson, seconded by Vice Mayor Tilke. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Now we'll go back to item 22, Annexation A22-02. I will open the public hearing. Councilmember, did you have specific questions? I see staff member coming down to the podium. You have to turn your microphone on, please.
There we go. Wait for him to come forward.
Mayor, while we're waiting, I think I'd like to note that this is just a public hearing only, that we're not approving anything today.
For clarification, this is the first step of an annexation. We have to do it as at a public hearing and kick this process off, if you will.
And I just wanted to hear more about the annexation, what you feel it's headed towards. Because I know that right now it's, as I recall, there's a closed restaurant on the corner, and it's across from Polytech. And if you could tell us a little bit more about it and what maybe the goal of the property owner is.
Council members, Mayor Peterson, council members, good evening. So the annexation, I won't give a full-blown presentation unless you want it. As far as the project is concerned, obviously, as Mayor Peterson stated, we are in the initiation stage. This process tonight will kick off the applicant being able to obtain signatures from surrounding property owners. And as they do that, we're going to continue the review of the annexation, and also there's some companion applications, a general plan amendment and a rezone as well. But as you know, here's the site. I'm sure you're already familiar with the site at that northwest corner of Power and Williamsfield Road. And the annexation exhibit, it's pretty simple. I'm not going to go over that too much. But the request is a little over 74 acres in size. The existing general plan classification on the site is residential, 14 to 25 dwelling units per acre, and general commercial at the hard corner. And the existing zoning is rural 43, which is a county designation. So the family, the property owner, is the DeBella family. They've owned the property for quite some time. As you notice, there are some existing buildings out there. I can go back to the aerial. There's an old commercial site, and then the building on the corner was an old Cosmo's restaurant. If those who've lived here in the town for a long time remember eating the amazing Italian food from that restaurant, and then some other commercial buildings that are out there. So the vision for the DeBella family, and I'm going to show you an exhibit that is a conceptual exhibit only. I don't have it in the presentation, but I will show it to you. It's at the very end. I will show you a conceptual land use plan that kind of shows kind of the vision that the DeBella family has for this property. They're proposing to change the zoning from obviously RU43 to SFD and SFA towards that, in that single-family residential portion at the north with various residential lot sizes. And then you can see up along Power Road they're proposing a multifamily medium apartment complex. And then along Power Road in Williamsfield Road in Somerton, excuse me, another multifamily type of complex. And these buildings are super close to the street on both arterials. And then also one of the most exciting pieces of the property is the commercial corner, which will have buildings right up along Williamsfield and Power, and then kind of a unique, kind of a little village center to the far west side where you'll have a lot of parking right in front of the shops, kind of a little mini village center, commercial space there to take advantage of the residents being so close by, and you'll see a really good integration between the commercial and the residential. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell. Like I said, we're in the very beginning stages. We've reviewed the general plan amendment and the rezone 2 times now. And I don't know when they're going to resubmit and when this is going to come back before you for GP and rezone and for the annexation final hearing. But we're progressing with the applicant, and the project we've been fairly happy with the project so far. So that's the project in a nutshell. I'm open for any other questions that you may have. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keith, is this property within the Gateway Character Area?
Mayor Peterson, members of the council, yes, it is within the Gateway Character Area.
And that's why the general plan shows it as 14 to 25 for dwelling units per acre.
That is correct, Mayor Peterson.
Is this project coming in within that or under that? I'm thinking the SFD and the SFA may be under that 14 to 25.
Mayor Peterson, members of the council, it will come in a little bit under that if you average everything out. I can't remember the total density off the top of my head, but it will be under that as you calculate everything. I think it's about 14 to 15 dwelling units per acre if you add all of those residential units together.
And the commercial area, does that have to be built under the HVC category for Gateway Character Area?
Mayor Peterson.
Or GVC, excuse me, GVC, misspoke.
Good question, Mayor Peterson. No, it does not. It does not have to be.
Okay.
They are actually proposing general commercial zoning.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Buckley?
Yeah, I just had a question. So this, right now, this is just for the annexation that you're asking, just to get approval to annex this. And then later, you will come back and we'll have the opportunity to either approve zoning or not approve zoning and all the other aspects for you.
Yes, Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Buckley. So today is just an introduction of the annexation.
Okay.
The annexation will come back to you at another hearing in the future to approve the annexation and the general plan amendment and the rezone. They'll probably be on the same agenda, and we will hear the annexation case first, so you'll have the opportunity to approve the annexation and then the general plan amendment and the rezone.
Okay.
So that will come later.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the annexation is actually what we're dealing with today.
That is correct, Councilmember Buckley. That's what we're dealing with today. And it's just an introduction to get your input and potentially the public's input as they start the petition process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. You're welcome.
Councilmember Torgerson?
So if I'm interpreting this right, they could annex, yet it could all be commercial. There's no guarantee of zoning this to anything, correct?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Torgerson, they could annex separately without the general plan amendment and the rezone. But they have chosen not to do that, and kind of part of us supporting this annexation is that they have these companion applications for general plan amendment and rezone. I can't stand up here and tell you today we'd support an annexation without seeing the actual land uses that are going to be proposed. Now everything works together. Technically, in theory, they could do that, but they have chosen not to do that. They're going to move forward with one large project and master planned type community. So we're grateful that they're doing that. But yeah, technically they could annex it without that, but I don't know if staff would be supportive of that. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it does, but.
It does, thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
since this is just a public hearing and no action, do we have to do anything other than just close the public hearing and be done? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I was just looking at my agenda. Any other comments or questions while Keith is at the podium? Great, thank you. Thanks, Keith.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
the
Thank you.
information. And there is no recommended motion. The purpose of this is the public hearing to kick off this annexation process that's required by law. Now we will move on to the next item, which is General Plan GP 23-11, Zoning Z 23-02. I haven't closed the public hearing because we didn't have a motion or a vote on that last one, so the public hearing is still open to discuss this item. Any, would you like a staff report or questions in particular?
A staff report, please.
Staff, if you could come down for this item, please. Is it Keith again? Oh, no, hi.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council. I can answer any questions pertaining to GP 2311 or Z 2302, or I'm happy to provide a presentation of this rezoning and general plan amendment case for the Gilbert Spectrum project.
Do you have specific questions, or do you want a full presentation?
I want the full presentation, please.
Okay.
I'm happy to provide that, Councilman Torgerson. So I will briefly introduce our project here at the hard corner of McQueen Road and Elliott Road. What we're looking at here is a 9-acre proposal for a general plan amendment and a rezoning to support the development of a 120,000 square foot office building that will be part of the Gilbert Spectrum project, which is mostly developed in that industrial park that's at that southwest corner of those two arterials there. Just to briefly demonstrate the context of this project, what you're looking at is a single development site that the general plan and rezoning boundaries vary slightly compared to the design review boundaries. And that is just because of the unique parcel arrangement on this site. There was a rezoning done in 2008 that changed some of the zoning district boundaries here for a past project to do commercial on that hard corner. That commercial never came to fruition, and instead you saw commercial develop on some of the other corners at Elliott and McQueen. And the site is sat vacant since that rezoning was done. Since then, the Gilbert Spectrum development has been replatted a number of times, and those parcel boundaries haven't followed the dimensions of that original 2008 project. And so some of this project with the general plan and rezoning is to bring that zoning a little bit more into alignment with the rest of the Gilbert Spectrum project. And I'll walk through that here in just a moment. Here's another example of that zoning map that gives a little bit, or general plan map, excuse me, that gives just an example of the current conditions on that site. So you can see that GC, that general commercial classification on the hard corner there. And so the rest of the development of Gilbert Spectrum has been classified as industrial, and this would bring that classification of that corner into accordance with the rest of the Gilbert Spectrum development. So it would classify those 9 acres remaining from general commercial to industrial. And then here's just an exhibit that demonstrates the specific areas with the parcel boundaries and showing that all of that would come into industrial and would remediate some of the concerns that we have about zoning boundaries and parcel boundaries not aligning with one another. Then for the zoning, we have a community commercial parcel on that corner. It's zoning classification. The rest of the Gilbert Spectrum development is light industrial, and so that would be reclassified in our zoning ordinance from community commercial, supporting some of those medium scale commercial uses, to light industrial, which can also support some of the office uses and other employment uses that tend to make up the kind of varied nature of a lot of our employment areas within the town. And then here's a similar exhibit just demonstrating the relationship of that zoning case with the parcel boundaries surrounding it. Just to show you a development plan, since rezoning cases, and especially ones which would expand planned area developments such as this one, to briefly go back to the zoning case, this would also expand the PAD boundaries for the Gilbert Spectrum development to encompass this development, to just bring it in alignment with the rest of the Gilbert Spectrum development, make it all one unified development. Just showing you the development plan for that kind of whole PAD with this project included. You'll see in blue here, and I'll zoom in just a little bit so you can see on the screen. There'd be a two-story office building on that corner, which is part of that concurrent design review case, and then some additional improvements on that L-shaped parcel there that's part of the design review itself. The zoning case only covers the main portion of that lot that you see in blue on that hard corner, and so it's about 2/3 of that design review case. Would go to support the improvements that you see in blue on that screen that would fill out what was originally proposed as part of the broader Gilbert Spectrum Master Site Plan. So the proposed recommendation to council this evening is to adopt the attached resolution for GP 2311 and approve the findings of fact and adopt the attached ordinance for Z 2302, both supporting the office building proposed for Gilbert Spectrum Building 3. With that, I can answer any questions that the council has at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Noah. Questions? Councilmember Kaprowski?
Hi, Noah. Do you know who the tenants of the office building will be?
Councilwoman Kraprowski, could you repeat the question?
Do you know who the tenants of the office building will be once it's constructed?
Council member, the proposed tenant would be Northrop Grumman in looking to expand the footprint on that site. Obviously, tenancy plays a limited role in some of the design review cases that we do, but that's the proposed tenant for this project.
Thank you.
Other comments? Oh, Councilmember Buckley?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go back to I think the first photo you showed? Not that one, the next one. There you go. There is an elementary school right there. I don't know if anyone took notice to that. That's a huge family area of homes and properties, and I'm just not sure that I can support this with having, my children went to this elementary school, so I know what this is, and people bicycle there, and I don't know if you had the opposition from residents or not, but I know that if I still live there, I would have an issue with this industrial, whether it's light or, heavier industrial in this particular area. I just wanted to let you know that.
Councilmember Buckley, I appreciate the comment regarding the proximity to the elementary school. That is an interesting land use dynamic you have on McQueen Road, just given that the Gilbert Spectrum site itself, and I actually pulled this up so that in the lower left-hand corner, and I know it's kind of difficult to see from where you're sitting, shows that a number of those industrial buildings in that area already exist, which obviously doesn't completely eliminate the concern that there's some really interesting land use tension between the surrounding schools and that industrial component there. We've taken that into account and we're understanding that there's some, there's the risk of having greater pedestrian and bicycle traffic and things to take into account there. We don't propose a lot of traffic coming across McQueen Road or affecting this site too much, just because a lot of the residents and school children come from the east through the Islands development there. But I appreciate you bringing that concern up. Regarding members of the public, we haven't received any public comment on this case at this time. And so I just wanted to reiterate that item. I was not completely clear about that in the staff report since we received comments up to the time of the hearing, so.
And you sent out the public comment?
Correct.
Cards, okay.
Councilmember, all public noticing was done in accordance with town codes and standards.
Okay, okay. As we know and we found out, sometimes things don't always happen the way we see them on paper, and you know, I mean, there are kids that go there from that entire area, even across the street. I lived on the other side of Elliott myself, so I do have a big concern with that. But thank you for your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Buckley.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Torgerson.
Noah, thank you. You're thorough as always. I don't see you as excited as you usually are, but, you know, I do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Torgerson.
Noah, what portion of this project is already, this property is already developed on that corner? I know that the vice mayor and I went and did a groundbreaking on the south portion of this development that I think is closest to the elementary school, closest to the LDS. It's not a church, it's a seminary. Thank you. I'm a little tired, sorry, traveling. Seminary and the high school on that side of the road. And I know that a large portion of that's already developed, correct? And it's light industrial.
Mayor Peterson, just to clarify, you're talking about the Gilbert Spectrum Master Site Plan area on the southwest corner there? So I would say it's about 60% developed. On your screen in that bottom left-hand corner, most of the Gilbert Spectrum development is included there, kind of surrounding that red box that you see. And I maybe could have done a better job of highlighting that. But as you can see, there's a number of very large buildings there. This would be, it's about 60% developed right now. And this building would actually mirror the building that's to the west of that in building 5 of that development. So it's something that very similar to what you've seen before. And again, would take it up to about 70 to 75% developed. There's still 2 or 3 vacant sites that have some development interest, but no official proposals brought to the town yet.
Thanks so much, Noah. I think that the commercial that developed on the northeast corner and the southeast corner have probably kept commercial from this corner also, and especially with the light industrial that has grown up around it and with Northrop Grumman there. So I look forward to Northrop Grumman expanding within our community too. That's a win for us, for sure. Thank you, Noah. Any other comments or questions on this project? No? Great. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for discussion. If anyone would like to make a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve General Plan GP 2311 and zoning Z 2302.
Do we, oh, sorry, Vice Mayor, didn't mean to interrupt. Do we need to do two separate motions, 2 separate votes, or just one? One's okay? Thank you.
So
Sorry.
that motion will be okay?
Yes, that would be fine.
Yes.
Yep. So I have a motion by Vice Mayor.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaprowski. Please vote. Motion passes with a 6-1 with Councilmember Buckley as the one vote. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to the next item, which is, I'll open the public hearing, Z 22-17, and ask staff to come on down for this item. Would you, Councilmember Torgerson, you also asked for this one. Would you like some questions answered?
I'd like the full presentation, actually.
Full presentation. Great, thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sal DeSanto, Planner 1 here with the town. It's a pleasure to present to you all tonight.
Your first time, Sal? Yes.
It is in front of council.
Welcome.
Appreciate that. So the project that we are going to be taking a look at tonight is Z22-17 Baseline Commercial. The subject site outlined in blue here is an approximately 2.8 acre parcel located within an overall 11.82 acre Joe Porter Planned Area Development PAD outlined in green, which is located at the southwest and southeast corners of Lindsay and Baseline Roads. The subject site is directly adjacent to the City of Mesa right-of-way, just to the north, which is Baseline Road, commercial uses to the east and west, and the Porter Acres residential subdivision just to the south. The subject site and neighboring properties, roughly 500 acres, were annexed into the town under case number A7402, and following this annexation in April of 1999, Town Council approved case Z9835 and Ordinance 1161. In this request, rezoned approximately the 11.82 acres of rural residential to neighborhood commercial and also established the development guidelines for the Joe Porter PAD. In 2006, Town Council approved Case Z05-10, which amended the conditions of approval of Ordinance 1161, which is that Joe Porter PAD. It's important to mention while various zoning applications have been processed in the vicinity, all properties associated with the PAD are still part of the Joe Porter PAD and must follow the conditions of development provided in Ordinance 1161 and 1709. Which brings us to our request here tonight. And the request proposes to amend ordinances 1161 and 1709 pertaining to the just over 11 acres of the Joe Porter PAD by amending or deleting certain conditions of development and modifying the conceptual development plan. And no changes are being proposed to the general plan designation nor the zoning classification. Here we have a list of the proposed condition modifications. The first condition modification was to replace the language for condition W. Modifying this condition allows the applicant to proceed without the creation of a water, sewer, or drainage master plan, as a master plan for these items has been previously established and allows the applicant to move forward per our current standards. Secondly, the applicant is requesting to remove condition HH, and the removal of this condition allows the proposed driveway to be centralized on site, allowing for adequate spacing between existing access points, and the proposed driveway location has been reviewed and approved by the City of Mesa as Baseline Road is within Mesa's jurisdiction. The removal of condition MM is also being proposed. The removal of this condition allows a variety of commercial opportunities to complement the neighboring residential uses while maintaining the intent of the Joe Porter PAD. And lastly is the amendment to condition NN, which modifying this condition allows for parking to be located within the required building setback, which is permitted per our current land development code. And also staff has added language that parking within the setback shall only apply to the site located west of the southwest corner of Baseline and Lindsay Road, which is our proposed site. As previously mentioned, this request also includes to amend the conceptual development plan that was approved under case Z98-35. The previously approved development plan showed one commercial building, roughly 35,000 square feet, with an east to west orientation along that rear property line. The updated development plan provides 3 pads on the commercial site, which is including a 1,275 square foot drive-through restaurant, an 1,800 square foot express oil change facility, and a roughly 8,000 square foot retail building. Access to the site is provided from 2 access points off of Baseline Road. One access point is already constructed in the northeast corner of the site, and that one access point is proposed to be centralized roughly 207 feet from that existing access point on site. Sufficient circulation is also provided on site from 3 major interior drive aisles running north to south and 2 interior drive aisles running east to west. Many aspects of the Joe Porter PAD are represented on the updated development plan, such as outdoor pedestrian amenities, building design, and building separation. Future development shall be in substantial conformance with this development plan proposed tonight. The site at hand is currently within the general commercial zoning district, and as I previously mentioned, there is no request to change the general plan designation or the zoning. As for public participation, a virtual neighborhood meeting was held on August 2nd, 2022, and 5 surrounding property owners or community members attended that meeting. The community members had questions and comments regarding architectural design of the proposed screen wall on the southern property line, questions regarding treatment to the existing SRP canal and its associated equipment, comments and concerns also regarding the medical use that was initially proposed that's no longer on our updated development plan. And lastly, there were questions just regarding pickup or noise from pickup for trash. And from the reasons set forth from the staff report, Planning Commission and staff recommend approval to Town Council regarding D22-17 baseline commercial. And that concludes the presentation, and I open the floor up to any questions.
Thanks, Sal. Great job.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sal? Councilmember Kapowski.
I have a question regarding the site plan. What are the next steps for that site plan? Does that go through further review in the process after this zoning gets approved?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Kaprowski. Yes, so the site plan will come through a design review process that is being reviewed right now by planning staff, and that will be brought to Planning Commission in the near future.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Oh, were you given a word that you were supposed to say since it was your first time presenting to us? Sometimes that happens.
Spoiled it for me. No, I'm just kidding.
Any other comments or questions? No? Do we need a presentation by the applicant? I don't even know if they're here because I can't see. Oh, they are back here.
Yep, they are here.
Do we need any? No? Okay, great. Thanks, Sal.
Awesome, much appreciated.
Thanks. We'll bring it back to the dais. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back for conversation or a motion.
I'd like to move to approve this zoning Z22-17.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Torgerson, seconded by Vice Mayor Tilke. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Shut my mic off. Now I need to recess the regular meeting and reconvene in a special meeting to discuss item 28, budget, conduct hearing, and consider adoption of an ordinance setting the secondary property tax levy for FY 2024 at $31,600,000. And we have Kelly Fost at the podium. Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the presentation's just popping up. I know we've talked about budget several times, so I'll be brief tonight. This is our final budget adoption. Gilbert is just best in class, and we continue to get accolades for the work that we do in the community. As we always do, zero base, a third of the organization every year. Most of the time it reduces money out of the budget, but as you know, this year with all of the inflation and costs, we actually had to add money to the budget as a result of zero base, about 1.6 million. It's been a long budget process, very collaborative, with kickoff in September, departments working together to get best recommendations to town manager and then to council. We had meetings with council in April, one-on-one meetings, and then a study session, which was an opportunity to get together publicly and give direction to staff. We incorporated that direction, especially with the crime lab changes into the preliminary budget adoption documents, which were passed by council. And tonight is that final step of the budget process and all of the public input, council input, and staff input for the budget. We are recommending 43 new positions. This is out of about 125 that were requested. The capital improvement plan includes about $1.4 billion of projects, mostly in street improvements and water improvements, which align with the bonds that were approved for those areas. With that CIP money, about $900 million of it is associated with projects that are currently underway that will carry forward and continue to work on those projects, and then about $450 million of new projects. In comparison with last year's budget, it's about $400 million different, mostly in the capital improvement area or the debt service associated with those new bonds that were approved. This is the visual of how that looks, and you can see majority of the budget in Gilbert is associated with the capital projects that we work on. Tonight we also have the property tax, which would be a $31.6 million levy, resulting in a 99-cent rate. It will be the 6th year in a row that we would have 99-cent rate. So we've had our budget milestones, April study session, May preliminary adoption and public hearing, and then tonight we have our final adoption for the budget. And it is our tradition for final adoption. Digital Government has put together a budget video. Pending approval by council of the budget, we would release that tomorrow. And so we want to give you the debut. That is traditional. And kudos to Digital and to Oscar. They did always do a great job, but a very fun video for us tonight.
Gilbert's new budget is focused on helping us to manage growth across the community. The new town hall opened this year, and there is a lot to look forward to in the coming year. Gilbert will get its first all-electric fire truck, and will make an investment in new public safety radios. Many of our parks will see improvements, including a renovation of the Water Tower Plaza in our Heritage District, and multiple restroom upgrades. In addition, there will be a few playground replacements at Cactus Yards and Freestone Recreation Center. The kitchen at the community center where senior meals are prepared will also be renovated. We are also focused on a variety of projects to remove turf to help reduce our outdoor water use, as well as a few shade projects, including the dugouts at McQueen Park. And if you see road construction and a lot of orange cones, please be patient, as we tackle many road projects that are necessary in a town of our size. All of this will help us to plan for the future, focus on maintaining infrastructure, and be best prepared to avoid traffic and transportation issues. Anticipating problems before they happen helps us find solutions to make quality of life better for all of our residents.
And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Thanks, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly? Councilmember Torgerson?
Apparently, several weeks ago, there was a question about reducing the secondary property tax from 0.98833 to 0.98. And I believe after the next meeting, the response was that there wasn't a consensus amongst council to pursue that, correct?
At study session, we didn't, and then there wasn't discussion to have it changed at preliminary adoption. And so the documents tonight do continue to reflect that 0.9883.
Okay. And that 0.00833 would be a massive $204,000, right?
Councilmember Torgerson, I believe the email after study session with the information would be a reduction of about 265,000 to 31.335 would get it an even 98-cent rate.
Yet that was the consensus you had. I wasn't given the information in advance to present it to anybody on the dais. And therefore, there was no discussion on the dais about that because I wasn't handed the information. It was determined there wasn't a consensus beforehand. Yet I wasn't handed any information to possibly gain a consensus. And so I have issues that wasn't full participation in this because I wasn't allowed to participate properly. For that reason alone, I feel that we should reduce the secondary tax by that $265,000 that you determined.
Councilmember Torgerson, I apologize if you didn't receive that information. It did come in an email after the study session to all of council in the same email.
But it wasn't brought before when we came to this last time when we voted on it. You were told you didn't feel there was a consensus to be able to present that and show us the implications.
Correct. It was not included in the presentation, but it was open for discussion if any council members had that they wanted to bring that up that night or tonight.
Well, I would like to bring that up for discussion right now.
If I remember correctly, at the preliminary meeting, you didn't bring it up for discussion. Actually, you didn't bring anything up for discussion that evening. And Kelly did send it out ahead of time. There was no, I'm sure Kelly didn't hear from anyone, meaning she felt there was no consensus because I didn't respond to her asking that that would be something that I would be considering. And then it would have been the opportunity at the preliminary meeting to have that discussion at that point in time. And yes, you can have that discussion this evening. Any comments or from the council on lowering to, if we go, I'm going to point out, if we do go to 0.98, it will most likely be lower than 0.98. It's very hard to get it to 0.98. Right now, we're at 0.9883 when we're claiming we have 0.99. Correct, Kelly? It's very hard to get it because we're looking at the dollar amount more than we look at the rate at this point.
Mayor, that's correct. Council does adopt the levy, and so sometimes we have to have a more specific dollar amount when we typically try and keep it an even number that's easy for council to say and communicate with the public, but it can be made a more specific number that gives exactly 0.98.
And if we lower the rate this evening, then the levy has to go down, and will we be able to collect enough for what we need here in the community to pay back the bonds that we've issued?
Mayor, we still would have enough to make the debt service payments next year. If we change and have a lower rate continuing on forward, then it does change the amount that we have available for debt into the future.
That could also affect our credit ratings if we're not collecting enough to pay our debt. And we also are seeing right now more residents that aren't necessarily paying their taxes. So we have to be prepared for that also. Yes.
May I?
Yes.
The levy is approximately $2 million higher than last year, correct?
Approximately.
So if property values had not risen, we would still be at approximately 29.6 million?
Regardless of what property values did, this is the amount that we would need to pay debt service for next year. So
you would be asking to raise the rate if values had stayed consistent?
Mayor, Councilmember Torgerson, how property tax works here in Arizona, the taxable value can only increase by 5% per year, even though the market value is much higher. And so when we structured the bonds, we anticipated that there would be growth because we know that we have quite a distance between what properties are being taxed at and what the full market value is. So it was a reasonable assumption to assume that we would continue to have growth in that rate. And then the direction from council in the past has been to keep the rate at 99 cents or as close to it as we could. So when we structured the bonds, we built that into the assumption to meet that direction.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, Vice Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, thank you for the information that you sent. After the study session, when Kelly sent out the follow-up information, one of the questions I asked was, so what does this mean for an average homeowner? And I guess I fall in that category. And it's $2 a year that we might be saving our residents. And I know it always sounds great to reduce a tax for somebody, but when you talk about $2 a year and the impact that has on our streets and all of these other things that we're providing, that we're paying debt on, that we have bond authorization, it's, I feel like it's not enough money, $2 a year, to put ourselves in a financial situation that we fall below our financial policy limits that we have in our funds to ensure that if people don't pay their taxes, that we can still pay our debt. And I think that's really important. We continue to see the escalating cost of not only construction, but financing as we move forward. And we start putting ourselves in a position that projects will not get done for that $2 a year. And that's my concern, is it's not what's happening today, but long into the future, if we start looking at that. I feel your frustration, Councilman Torgerson, but when I look back at my recollection, and so let me know if I'm wrong, during the study session, it was brought up as an option. And I believe at that time, if the council members felt that that was really a great idea, that's when everybody should have spoke up and said, yes, let's move forward. I think you had asked for some information, and we got it back. And at that point, it was presented at the preliminary budget discussion, and the council members still didn't. I remember that as it's pretty much the same presentation, but at that point, nobody else on the council said, yes, we should have that discussion. So maybe we miscommunicated some way on the council, and maybe we need to look at that. I think that Kelly's presented the information that she should have. So I'm trying to figure out how we could correct that in the future, but I think for this conversation, I feel like we've had 3 opportunities, and none of the other council members said, yes, let's make that a priority.
Councilmember Anderson.
I think I did say yes, that I was interested in. Maybe it's just the optics of making a cut, giving something back to the citizens, but I think I did say yes. I was interested in that.
Now that you say that, I do remember that. So you were the only one, though, I believe, that said that in that meeting.
That would have been at the study session that we had specifically for the budget and for the tax rate and levy at that point in time. And that would be when Kelly would feel that she didn't hear a consensus. 2 out of 7 is not a consensus to move forward with something. She did provide the information, although without, and then it was not brought up at the preliminary budget meeting on May 6th, on May 2nd, excuse me. Councilmember Buckley?
And maybe other people have changed their minds since then, but would there be any contingency funds somewhere that would cover this if this were to be to pass or become anything? I mean, that's just a question I'm asking.
I'll let Kelly give the technical answer, but secondary primary tax funds are quite different than all of the rest of our funding. And so it's very particular what we can and can't use funds for. Kelly?
That's correct, Mayor. It is in a separate area. It has to earn its own interest, and it's not mingled with any of the other town funds. We do maintain a fund balance in there, according to policy, at least 5%, but not more than 10%. So we would have a little bit less fund balance in there, but we would not be below our required minimum fund balance by policy.
Okay. So the contingency funds, and it's not that we wouldn't use them, but they're not allowed to be intermingled with this particular type of tax. Just, I mean, in layman's terms, to put it that way, yeah.
Yes, we wouldn't mix it and move other money over there.
Because they're used for different things in other aspects of what's allowed to be used, the contingency funds. But there's only property taxes that are allowed in this aspect, correct?
Correct. That's all we would use the revenue for, is paying off debt service.
Councilmember Torgerson?
So there's 5 to 10% held in there. And we're talking about 0.83, 0.0083 cents on the dollar?
They're percentages of different numbers, but yes, 5 to 10% of the debt service payment.
But 265,000 out of 31,600,000 appears to be a very small number.
It would be a small number of the.
So it's not truly putting us in any great danger of anything, is it?
It's the direction of council, which we can follow, and if we
But
change
it's
the
not
tax
going to bankrupt
rate,
this town or make us default on our bonds at that small a number, is it?
we would have enough money to pay next year's debt service payment. If the
Fantastic.
direction of council is to maintain 98 cents instead of 99, it does make a difference in how much capacity we have or how fast we could repay debt, how much interest we would pay in any future debt that we might need for future projects.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Kaprowski.
I just wanted to add that I think why I don't support this particular proposition or proposal is because it seems to be in the wrong step of the process. Previous councils have set the secondary property tax rate at 0.99, and now because of rounding, we want to try to fit in and squeeze in a whole conversation and vote to bring it to 0.98, and then in future years, that's going to continue to be maybe rounded down. If there's a majority of council that wants to bring up that discussion, I think that needs to happen separately and not during this budget adoption and tax levy adoption process. I also believe that we are obligated to pay our debts based on them only paying voter-approved bonds, and that it just doesn't seem appropriate at the last minute to make this change given the process that has moved forward. For that reason, I don't support those changes and would like to maintain the rate and the calculations that Kelly has proposed.
Any other comments?
I agree with.
I guess, I'm sorry, go ahead. You know, I guess with that said, I understand what everyone's saying. But we also have to understand that we have 3 new council members. This is brand new to us. And, you know, when we first started, we didn't know what we didn't know. So I had interest also, along with Councilmember Torgerson and Councilmember Anderson also, but didn't know when to put that into effect or didn't have direction when we can make changes itself or request changes to the whole budget process to begin with. That's it for right now.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate those comments, Councilmember Bongiovanni. I think that maybe we could have a further discussion after this meeting and talk about that budget process and how and when to have these big picture conversations. And you're right, you are new in that this came up quick. I remember that when I came on council as well. And so perhaps this can be a kind of a lesson learned for us as far as what the budget process really feels like from beginning to end, and happy to have that conversation on a bigger scale with staff in the future.
Any other comments or questions?
This is number 28.
You need to turn on your microphone, please.
Sorry. This is number 28 that we're on, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions on that one. The next one I do.
Councilmember Anderson.
This is not without precedent, where we cut the bed tax a few years back. Didn't mean a whole lot, but it was great PR to give some money back to the citizens. And I think this amount is small enough that it's not going to be a significant impact. And it certainly can be evaluated again next year, but I think it's something that would gain a lot of mileage considering some of the things that have been going on in the community and what it would do for us.
I will say that I agree with you if you were actually going to give something back. This isn't going to lower anyone's tax bill in reality, because What Kelly explained is because of Prop 207, your evaluation of your home is going to go up 5% no matter what. So your tax bill is constantly going to increase. So people aren't going to see a difference in their tax bill. It's not going to go down. I'm trying to be clear. I want to be very clear and transparent as we're talking about this. Residents are not going to see their tax bill go down no matter what is done tonight. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just pointing something out. And this rate has been lowered over the past 10 years, 12 years, several times. Can any of you tell me when that was? No, because nobody knows. Because nobody pays attention and because your tax bill is continually going to go up. But we, as the councils, past and current, present, have been fiscally responsible in the decisions that we've made to put us in a position that we have AAA credit ratings with all the credits. We are able to pay debt off earlier, which saves us money and our residents money in the long run when we have those extra funds in order to do that. If we cut, we may not have those extra funds, and especially if others can't pay, then we will be paying more. And again, not advocating one way or the other, explaining where we're at right now. To make such a tiny change that nobody's going to notice or recognize, but it could have longer effects on the community, credit-wise, fiscally, with our policies, just pointing things out. Just want everybody to know the big picture. You're saying you don't understand. We had an extra budget study session to talk about these things specifically that we don't typically have, but an extra study session for the budget. Then we had the preliminary budget meeting, and now we're having this meeting for this discussion. This is the meeting that's usually pretty much a formality because the preliminary budget night is the night that we do all of the discussing, have the conversations, make the changes so that when Kelly comes back on this evening, hopefully she comes back, it's kind of a formality at this point in time. So just want to throw that out there so everybody knows what they're discussing. Councilmember Bongiovanni?
I recognize that, but I also know that when we walked into last meeting's executive meeting, that's when we were told this is our last time to ask questions. So I wish I had time before that to know that that was the last time we can ask questions, which is why we're probably asking questions tonight.
And I'm the one who said that to you, but I didn't say it was the last time you could ask questions. I said typically at the preliminary budget meeting is when you ask your questions. Doesn't stop you from asking questions the next time, but this is the night, that was the night to ask the questions and have the discussions about anything that you wanted to discuss, typically. And then you would have the regular meeting again. And I said it on the dais that evening too, that the next meeting is typically a formality. We're trying to educate you along the way as we're going. Nobody did that for me. Nobody did that for you. I know Young was on the council 2 months. Sorry, Councilmember Kowalski was on the council 2 months when she did her first budget. There's a lot to get up to speed on. Completely understand that. I just wanted to lay out what our options are here. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for summarizing that because I think that it was a very good summary.
Thank you.
Our role as council members is to make sure that we're financially sustainable today and into the future, that we have projects that are going to keep this community at the quality that it is today and not turn into a community that's going to be rushing to catch up on maintenance and deterioration. Part of that responsibility is to ensure that we are funding our projects and paying those back as quickly as we can to save taxpayer dollars. I don't believe that it's our responsibility to make decisions for the optics, and it nobody's going to see it in their tax bill. I just feel like it sounds really good, and I'd love to say, hey, I reduced your taxes, but in reality, your taxes are most likely going to increase if your assessed value it increases. If we don't do the maintenance and we don't do the projects that we have already scheduled through our CIP projects, then our community is going to deteriorate and your assessed valuation will go down. It's not going to happen this year. Let's be clear. It's not going to happen this year one way or the other. It's just that if you're not keeping in mind long-term how you are maintaining and financing your community, we're going to be in a different situation. And the last thing I want to do is have assessed valuations going down and our costs going up, and then we have to raise taxes in the future. I was here when we were 116, 115, and the council made those decisions, and they were hard decisions. And even after all those years, if it's 12 years or how long, we continue to squeeze every penny out of every dollar to have a community that we have today with the lowest taxes in Arizona in most every category in fees. And so I just don't want to lose that perspective of what our responsibility is. And I'd love to have an optic too, but not by jeopardizing the future of Gilbert.
Any other comments, questions? Ready to make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 28, which is setting the secondary property tax levy for FY 2024 at $31,600,000. Did I say that right?
600,000. Yeah.
600,000. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a big
Second.
number.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the end of what you said? I didn't quite catch it.
Councilmember Buckley, I just read the actual item on your agenda. Would you like me to say it again?
Yeah, when you were saying, I think you were making a motion, or?
Yes, I did make a motion to approve number 28.
Just say the motion all over again.
Sure, sure.
I didn't hear the very ending kind of faded out.
Okay, sure, thanks. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 28, setting the secondary property tax levy for FY 2024 at $31,600,000.
Second.
I'd like to amend that motion for the number of $31,335,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have an amended motion for 31,300,000, what was it, 35? Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
335,000 by Councilmember Torgerson, with a second by Councilmember Bongiovanni. Please vote. Motion passes with a 4-3 vote.
Mayor, can I request a 47-second bio break?
Not 47 seconds, no, you can't, because I know none of you can go that fast. So I need to address the first motion. So the first motion doesn't need to be done because the second motion passed. Is that correct? The original motion, we just passed the amendment.
Mayor, just to clarify, we're just talking about the procedural rules. But now we go back to the vote, the original motion, which is item 28 as amended. So it's another vote with the amended amount of 31,335.
31 million.
Oh, sorry, 31,335. That's the new motion on the floor because the amendment passed. So we need a second vote. That would be approval of this item 28, the ordinance, with that change to 31,335.
So what happens to the vote that the motion that Vice Mayor made? It just dies?
This is it. This is her vote, this is her motion as amended, which was amended. So we need to do a second vote. There's no new motion or second needed. It's now a second vote on the amended motion. The original motion as amended.
Okay, so the original motion as amended for the amount of 31,335,000. I don't need a first and a second. It's already been handled, so it's just please vote. Motion passes 5-2. Thank you. We will now take I'm going to give you I don't even know what time it is. I'll give you until 8:30. It's 8:17, so about a 13-minute break. Thank you. Chris, if I said we were going to take a break till 8:30, do I have to wait till 8:30? Okay. But Patrick, oh, Patrick's right there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and come back to our meeting. It's still in a special meeting portion of our agenda. We have item 29, budget, conduct hearing, and consider adoption of the final budget of $2,049,501,300 for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. And Kelly, would you like to join us again, or would the council just like to discuss? Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
Councilmember Anderson? It's probably easier if you have questions specifically for Kelly, maybe that would be easier.
I don't know that I have any particular questions for you, Kelly, but I know there are other council members do, and I have sat up here for a number of years voting on budgets, and I've often been frustrated because there are no votes just based on principle to vote against the budget. And we can't operate without a budget. We need a budget. But I also recognize, and I think Councilmember Bongiovanni had mentioned that we have 3 new members, and I know that they have questions, and I don't know that they can all be addressed here tonight or not. I would not be opposed to putting off our final vote until the 20th. That's kind of where I'm coming from right now, depending on, I guess, the answers to questions and how the other council members feel. But I wouldn't be opposed to that, to give them, in fairness, an opportunity, if there are questions that they have that you haven't already addressed. I'm not saying that it has to be to their satisfaction that they agree with your answer, because that can't, sometimes that's not going to happen, but just that we give them an answer, that they have an answer to their questions.
Kelly, are there steps that you need to take with the budget before the end of June? And the reason that we address this budget so early in the month of June, that delaying for 2 weeks would cause some issues, because I believe that there are from past history. Mic on, Kelly.
There we go. Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, we have received some questions from council. There were about 18 since study session, or since our one-on-ones, and to my knowledge, all of them have been answered, but happy to answer additional questions if there are additional questions at that period of time. Always open to help with that. Mayor, as far as what process is happening, we do have a year-end close and then opening of the new year that happens, and we do plan that timeline around the proposed date for final adoption. So what we've got on screen is just part of an email that went out earlier to all of the town, letting them know here are the next steps that need to happen, when we'll get the budgets loaded into our financial system, when the requisitions will be needed to enter, how purchasing can carry forward those requisitions into next year. We also don't allow any of the job offers to be made on positions that council might approve until after the final budget has been fully adopted. I am aware of one department who has a candidate they are hoping to extend an offer to, which they can't do until after budget is adopted. So those are just some of the things that are happening behind the scenes that we will take the information from council on adoption and work with to set up next year.
Thank you, Kelly. Do the council members have questions? Councilmember Buckley?
Thank you. I don't really have any questions with you, Kelly, as you know, you and I chatted earlier, and I've spoken with a couple of other people. I've struggled with this because this is a $2.1 or $2.2 billion budget. I've been a council member for about 5 months now. I haven't really been involved with this budget, so I'm struggling with voting for a budget that I've had no input on, and and it's not due to you not doing your job properly. I think you do a fantastic job. It's amazing. And I know what it takes to put into this, but I know that, you know, this coming year, when I can have input on the budget, and we chatted about that, because there are things that I probably would have done differently. I know there's at least 4 council members that have been here and have been a part of this budget, this entire budget. So I chatted with Patrick. He's been great. It's not, how my vote is going to probably go is nothing to do with you or, how you've handled your job. You've done fantastic. Patrick's done great. I've gotten budget information from other people as well. It's just, I can't justify in my heart to vote for a budget in this amount that I've had no input on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but that's where I am on this budget. And I thank you for all your help, and you as well, Patrick.
Councilmember Torgerson?
In fact, it's not, there is no individual that's being a roadblock or anything like that. So please don't take that as some sort of, you've not done your job, because that's hardly the case. In fact, I mean, as you get into this process, for instance, Public Works, I'm just like a fan. I think the Public Works has just run so well, and Jessica and Leah have done such an incredible job there that I have a hard time questioning things in that respect. I question other things as I've tried to be involved in the process. Oh, you're a policy guy. Oh, this is when you ask. Oh, bring it up here. There is no clear path. And to feel that I've had any impact whatsoever other than $265,000 5 minutes ago, I've had no impact, zero. It's because of process. It's probably, you have 3 new council people, you've experienced a pandemic, people aren't communicating the same way. There's a process that's happened that's changed this. And I can't say it's because you haven't tried. I'm not going to say that. I refuse to say that, because I think you do a good job, obviously. But again, there's things where I look and some things that I feel are wrong. And as a policymaker, I'm still supposed to approve this. And I've not had input, so I have a very difficult time with it. A very difficult time with it. Next year, this time, I'll probably have no problem with it whatsoever. But right now, I have a problem, because when to ask, what you say, it gets down a rabbit hole, such as consensus, and when to bring that up and how to do that. And that's my problem with this budget, is that I've had zero impact. And I hate to make it about me, but it's really not about me. It's about spending $2,049,000,000 for the residents of this town, and I am not in depth enough and have had no influence on how they're represented in this process. Thank you.
Councilmember Bongiovanni?
I think Vice Mayor Tilke nailed it on the head when she said it's about process. So I want everyone to know, all the staff to know, I'm looking right in your eyes right now. You guys have done an incredible job, okay? You've done everything you've done in the past years for other councils. But I think you have some council members that are different kind of council members and want to be more involved. And if we didn't express that, I can speak to myself. If I didn't express that, then that's on me. But I had someone tell me the other day, hey, pretty soon you got through your first budget season. Well, to me, it was easier than my 6-year-old T-ball season, and it's no reflection on you guys, none at all. I just thought we would be much more involved, and I felt like I didn't have a voice to make any kind of suggestions for the people I represent. And I guess again, like Councilmember Torgerson said, next year might be a little different. I want to be involved in your Hunger Games. I don't want to participate. I want to just observe it. I want to know more about it. And all staff has done an incredible job the last 5 months trying to get us up on speed on what their department does, and I couldn't ask for a better staff to give us that information. I mean, I want everyone to know that. But I just expected a lot more as far as our participation in it. You know, I don't even think I received the full budget. I mean, I'm sure it's a couple thousand pages, but our meetings are a couple thousand pages, and we get those every 2 weeks. So, again, it's nothing that the staff has done. I think we just effectively didn't communicate what we thought was going to happen. And again, that's not a reflection on you guys. It's just a matter of us feeling like, or myself, I can only speak for myself, wanting not necessarily to understand the budget more. I understand it. I understand why it's going up because of the inflation and everything else. But, you know, I probably would have didn't know that we could intervene at any point and say, hey, can we look at this? Can we look at that? I don't want to micromanage. It's the last thing I want to do. I don't have time to micromanage. But it just felt like if a citizen came up to me and said, hey, Councilmember Bongiovanni, what about this? I think the way the process is right now, they've lost their voice. And I don't know whether it was because of, you know, COVID, like Councilman Torgerson mentioned, but, you know, you guys have done everything possible to put us up to speed and to educate us like you did other councils before us. So it's not on you. I just wish we had a little bit more a little bit more understanding, a little bit more input more than anything else. And I find it difficult to ethically say, hey, here's a plus. Here's a yes vote for a $2 billion budget that I don't feel the people had a chance to be represented for. And again, I'm going to say it again, it has nothing to do with you. It's nothing on you guys at all. It has to do with the process.
Mayor.
Councilmember Kaprowski.
I'm extremely frustrated and disappointed at the comments that I'm hearing tonight from the new council members. You were elected into this position to do a duty, to serve in this role. You've had over 2 months to understand the budget process and what goes into it. In Gilbert, Kelly, could you go back to the slide with the pie chart, please? Gilbert is extremely responsible in the budget process. You'll notice that the CIP accounts for likely over 60% of the current budget, with over $900,000 million going into the CIP carry forward. That's because Gilbert is one of the only municipalities in this region that budgets their full 5-year CIP in the first year that project starts, which means that regardless of any recession or economic condition, Gilbert has that money in hand set aside for those CIP projects. That's where you'll see a lot of discrepancy or misunderstanding between Gilbert's budget and the other communities surrounding us. That carry forward, it's part of the budget because we've already allocated it and we need to use it. It'll continue to carry forward until those projects are completed, and that includes the North Water Treatment Plant, which is a huge amount. I ask you tonight to take on your responsibility as a council member and make a vote in this process, because the information has been presented. I understand that you feel like you have not been a part of the process, but this is the process. There's an understanding of the CIP and the projects, and our retreats that we've been to, especially the financial retreats, are where town staff present to us those future projects, and those are the opportunities that we have to engage. The town staff determines the needs. The council sets policy on the level of service that we provide to our citizens. We set that policy. The town staff identifies the resources needed to provide that level of service. We provide an extremely high quality of life in Gilbert at an excellent value. And I just implore you to take another consideration and understand that this is an important vote tonight. It's not something that can just be dismissed easily. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaprowski. Councilmember Bongiovanni. Councilmember Buckley. Wrong end of the dais.
You know, I just want to say, no one on this dais tonight said that the town of Gilbert is irresponsible. I would be the very last person. That thought has never come across my mind. So I'm a bit offended that particular term was brought out, because I don't know, you know, Jim and Councilmember Torgerson and Councilmember Bongiovanni, they're their own people. How I feel and what I'm saying is me and my thoughts and how I feel about this. I think Councilmember Kopowski can, you know, she can sit up there, and I wish I had the knowledge that she has, that I could sit up here and say exactly what she said. I don't, because I haven't been involved. I don't have that experience yet. Next year, I probably will maybe be saying the same thing to another different council member. I don't know. But, you know, I feel where I'm at, and I need to represent the people that have elected me. This is a budget that they have put together, and I would love to have had a little bit more information and input on this, and I will. And I should have maybe been more forceful in asking to be in meetings, but, you know, there's, you know, budget groups, and there's different groups and everything. So I'm not going to change. I can't change my mind, because in my heart, I did not have anything to do with this budget. I'm not saying it's a bad budget. It's probably just fine. But I'm not going to, I can't vote on a $2.2 billion budget that I have had no input on. And do I know what special revenues are? Sure. Do I know what the general fund is? I know what all those particular things. I have picked that up in the last couple of months, and even being here for 5 months, probably budget time that I've had. I don't know about the other two council members, but I would say maybe all together, because the meetings are usually, you know, 30-minute meetings or a 45-minute meeting. We did do the budget retreat. I picked up a lot of stuff there, but we were also, you know, we're shot with a fire hose of information. So you get as much information as you can. Kelly, you know, you're one of my favorite people. You do a fantastic job, and all the staff does a fantastic job. And it's nothing to do with you or the town, or maybe even in particular with the budget. It's just that I don't know this budget, and I can't justify voting for a budget that I had no input on. And Councilmember Kopowski, I mean, she did a great plea there, and I understand that. And I wish I had the knowledge that you have so that I could do that, but I don't. I just don't have it. I will have it. I guarantee you that. I will have it. And anyway, and that's the end of my conversation on this issue.
The way that the council members are involved in the budget process is the policy that is set by the council members. The council has set the policy as to how the staff will come together to create the budget. I've been doing this now since 2015. My first year, I was 5 months in, just like the rest of you. Same process then that it is now. Not saying that things can't be maybe changed, modified, if we have a new council and people want to see things done a little bit differently. Always open for suggestions. But to come in here this evening is very disappointing from my perspective. We've had ample opportunity to meet with Kelly one-on-one. We had a special budget study session. We had retreats. We had the preliminary meeting on May 2nd, and this is our last opportunity. The preliminary budget passed 7-0 with no conversation. Hardly no conversation, hardly no questions, hardly no nothing. The budget study session, there was hardly no questions, hardly no conversation, hardly no nothing. So I really am quite bewildered as to how we got here this evening. We've all been new. I mentioned a few minutes ago that Councilmember Kraprowski came in April and had to approve a budget May and June. We do the best that we can with the information that we have at hand. The councils previous to us, including myself, including Councilmember Anderson, have set policies that allow the staff to bring us the best budget that they can possibly bring us. Councilmember Kraprowski pointed out that we expect a level of service in this community as residents and especially as mayor and council for our residents. We are speaking for them. We are representing them. The staff does the job of putting that budget together to meet those requirements. And that's what they've given us here. That we reviewed at a study session, that we reviewed at a preliminary budget meeting, and now we are here for the final vote this evening. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that this is where we're sitting tonight. We have gone through quite a long process, and I've heard that you've asked questions and your questions have been answered, and I don't understand why we're sitting here at this point in time. We have a responsibility to this community to pass a budget, and if it passes 4-3, it passes 4-3. But I know the public is going to be wondering, how did it pass 7-0 at a preliminary budget meeting and now not at the regular meeting? And those are just my thoughts. Like I said, I've been part of, I guess, 7 budgets now because I missed 2020 when I had to step off the council. And I've never had a conversation like this, and I've had many new council members come in over time, and I sat through the 2020 budget meeting right here in this room. So I'm just really bewildered as to how we got here this evening. Councilmember Bongiovanni.
I can understand the, frustration and the bewilderness. But I guess if we went through those meetings and we didn't have questions, maybe it should have been a tip-off that we didn't have questions. Because when we start, when I started here, I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I know what I don't know. And again, my qualm, there's no qualm with the budget at all. There's nothing nefarious about the budget. It's just my feeling about the process of it and not being involved in it. And I guess if no questions were being asked by new council members, I guess I would have asked them, are you getting everything you need? How can I help you? But that didn't happen either. So that's why I think we're here, because we just didn't have a path to go on that we totally knew. And I know next year will be completely different, right? I mean, we'll know what we know at that point. That's the whole process of learning. We're in stage 2 of learning right now. We need guidance to help us with that process. To say, Chuck, did you get everything you need? What questions do you have? That's what we needed, I think. That's why I think we're here.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may summarize what I'm hearing. It appears that the new council members feel that we need to evaluate how the process works in the future, so that there are some additional touch points for us to provide some input, maybe earlier in the process. Maybe that comes through our retreat when we start talking about priorities for the new year. So I believe everybody up here and staff is very open to that. So if maybe we could close that conversation saying, yes, let's look at the process for the future. When it comes to this budget, Kelly had the timeline up there about what the next steps are. And the reality is probably the number one priority for this council is to pass a budget so that we can continue the work and the services that we provide. And that's what we're here to do tonight, is to pass a budget. Not passing a budget is not an option. It's against the law not to have a budget. So, if everybody decides to vote no, we're going to be in big trouble with the state. So I would like us to take a look at what our responsibility is tonight, and that is ensuring that we have a budget passed so that the work can begin for our next fiscal year and meeting a state statute to do so. I'm hoping that you can separate the two topics with the understanding we are going to look at this process for the future. But tonight, this is what's before us. Everyone here has stated they have no qualms with what's before us, that it's responsible, that it's, that's not the issue. So I hope that we can separate those two, agree. Hopefully Patrick has taken the notes that we do want to discuss the process for the future. But with that, if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion. Okay.
Just for instance, as I've gone through this and I've spoken with many former council members, some of which you would be surprised at what their interpretation of the Hunger Games is. And consistently, 5 out of the 6 very much felt that the budget was presented as take it or leave it. They didn't feel that they had enough input, yet they felt bound to move forward. I'm just going to point something out that I noticed that's silly, and it's probably very explainable, but to me right now, I think it's interesting that in 2023 we had 2 safety officers, but for 2024 we have none. Now, that's pretty minuscule. That's a small point. Yet, I don't know why we no longer have that. I don't know why we had it in the first place, maybe. Maybe that's the problem. I look and I know that we're charged, the most serious things we do are roads, they're police and fire are the most important things that people expect. I don't really comprehend how the asks for police and fire were reduced to what they have now, because they obviously were larger than what they got. And what was the trade-off? We weren't part of that enough to understand, to influence it, to what the policy that we would like to set forward was there. Now, I could sit here tonight and make suggestions of what I think that we need more full-time employees in police and fire. Well, that's great. Are you prepared to have that discussion up here right now? Because we can do it. But I look and I think I'd rather have more FTEs in police and fire. I don't know exactly where I'm going to take them that moment, but we can have the discussion tonight if you'd like. Or we vote on it and I vote no. It's simple.
Again, there's a topic that you haven't brought up all along, that we sat through a budget study session, we sat through a preliminary budget meeting and haven't had that discussion. You've met one-on-one with Kelly. Did you ask about the FTEs in PD? I know there's less in PD this year because there was a lot last year, which Vice Mayor and I mentioned at the last meeting, the preliminary meeting, is that last year's budget included a large number of PD and fire for public safety. So we try to balance where new FTEs are going to be so that they're not always we could put new public safety every single year, quite honestly. We could. It's just the way that it is. But we try to balance which departments get new FTEs while we're still trying to keep a handle on how many staff we have within the community and what the needs are for public safety. And the chiefs would fight for what they need if they needed them this year. And that's what the Hunger Games part of it is that we talk about for the people watching. To come to the last moment and not hear any of this up until now it's difficult. It's difficult to discuss. It's difficult to handle. We all put in a lot of hours. We all put in a lot of work. We all do the best that we can do. I don't know what you don't know. Councilmember Bongiovanni, you run multi-million-dollar companies. I didn't know what you don't know about budgets. And you've all said that you have budget experience. That's why I didn't think you had any questions. How are we supposed to know that if you have no questions, it's because you don't know? I can't answer that. And so at the study session, I asked over and over again if anyone had any questions. We are not allowed to talk to more than 2 people about any topic at any time. So we can't do that off the dais. We do it on the dais. I asked at the preliminary meeting, are there any other topics, any other questions? I asked over and over again because I was surprised that people didn't have questions. So to be here tonight is just, again, surprising and disappointing. And Vice Mayor, you have your mic on.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I did go through the line items that were presented, and I did call and email and ask the questions because there were a couple budget line items that I thought were extremely low, and I got the reason, and it made good sense. And so I felt comfortable that all my answers were given to me. Again, I'm ready to make a motion. We're going to continue to talk about what didn't go right, and I think everybody has already made up their mind on how they're going to vote. I'm still open to having a conversation about how we can be more inclusive and make sure that you have an opportunity to give feedback earlier in the process. But with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 29, which is the final budget. I don't want to read it. I'll try. $2,049,501,300 for the period of July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Kraprowski. Please vote. Motion passes 4-3. We have a budget. We will move forward, and we will look at ways to make the process more appealing for our new council members and easier for people to be involved in. Thank you, Kelly and the team, for all of your hard work when it comes to the annual budget. I know that it's not easy, and I know we've had a couple of difficult meetings past couple of years, and I appreciate all that you do. Kelly, keep coming back, please. I will adjourn the special meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. Move on to our administrative items. Number 30 is council administration, and it is the rescinding of, to approve a resolution rescinding numerous council-approved policies that we discussed at a separate meeting. Is there any discussion needed on this item? Then could I please get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 30.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. That is a long list of resolutions. Moving on to boards, commissions, and committees, reports from council liaisons on any board and commission items. Councilmember Anderson?
A very quick report, only because it affects us and affects the entire state. You may all be aware of the governor's recent discussion about groundwater use in our state, and there's been some unfortunate comments made that have gotten out to national press that Arizona's out of water. And I'm looking back to Dana, hoping that she will make sure that we get the word out that Gilbert's water portfolio is not only extremely resilient, but is very sustainable. And it's something that the message that we need to get out, because unfortunately what's going into the national press right now is that that Arizona is out of water. And so why would you try to attract economic development? I'm looking back at Jennifer and everybody in the back. You know what those kind of words can do when we convey a message that we're running out of a resource, and it's not true. The vast majority of communities in this valley and in this state have done a very good job in building very strong water portfolios, and we need to make sure that that's the story that gets out. I know AMWA is working very hard to do that, but we need to do everything we can too.
I have a little statement that I'll follow up with in a minute. Okay, thank you. Any other comments about boards, commissions, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you're going to thank the Veterans Advisory Board for the Memorial Day ceremony. It was very moving, and thank all of the council members that were there. And Council Member Kraprowski and I went down to the American Legion afterwards and donated to their lunch and got a chance to talk to some of them as well. But it was a very moving ceremony, and appreciate all the work they put into it.
Thank you for that, Vice Mayor. I appreciate you standing in. I was out of the country. I saw that all of the council members attended. It's the first one I've missed. I think it's the first, and I texted you all personally to thank you for being there, because I think it's the first time that I've seen all of the council in attendance. And thanks for taking up the task of going down to the Legion afterwards. That's typically what I do, so I appreciate that, and I know the Veterans Advisory Board does too. Yeah. Any other comments, boards and commissions? Moving on to item number 32, it's a policy item to consider approval of Council Policy 2301 regarding purchases from members of the governing board. And this requires a motion, correct, Chris? Yes, thank you. Is there any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion on this item?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 32, which is an annual approval.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Tilkey, seconded by Councilmember Buckley. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Now moving on to communications, report from the town manager on current events.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I want to start by thanking Kelly and her entire budget team, as well as the entire executive team and the organization that helps with this annual budget process. You know, I know coming into your roles for our new council members and for our existing council members, this is not an easy process. This is, I think, one of the things that's unique about Gilbert. We call ourselves a town, and we love that, and it connotates a different feeling for this community, that we know it, we're a part of it, we can make a difference in it, we know our neighbors, and it's a very special place, as we all know. It's also a very large community by any measurement or standard that you choose to use, whether it be geographic area, that's 72 square miles, planning area, that's bigger than Boston, Miami, DC, Seattle, Minneapolis, St. Louis. It's a very large area. It's also 280,000 residents and climbing. That makes it the 77th largest city in the nation, and we are still growing. And as a result, our budget and the service lines we deliver are very complex, and it's an 11-month process for staff. It's a grueling process. It's one in which we focus on continuing to deliver over 200 different lines of service that'll make Gilbert what it is and make it special, and ensure that we do that with high quality. Every year, the revenues lag the demand on services. The residents get here first, the businesses, and then the revenues follow. So every year, we're always trying to figure out how to meet an ever-increasing, growing demand on our services, and especially in these market conditions with inflation and supply chain disruptions, has made a very difficult job feel almost impossible on some days. And some of the stuff we're facing from supply chain delivery delays, it's downright, it's just downright scary at times for our service lines and what happens if we lose too many solid waste trucks, knowing it'll take us 2 more years to get one. And so they are literally figuring out every possible way they can to keep that fleet in service. And we have a very strong focus on preserving our quality of life in this community that we know is very special, not just for today, but for the next generation of residents that will live here and the next generation of leaders that will fill all our seats and serve in an elected capacity to be the good stewards that we have been. And we also do all of this in a very fiscally responsible manner, which puts additional pressure on us to figure out how to achieve that high quality and do that with as low as a possible cost as we can to the residents and to the businesses of this community who deserve to keep as much of their hard money in their bank account than ours. But it does cost money to do that. And so it is a grueling process. And for our new council members, we'll very much look forward to working with you and helping you understand the steps along the way, understand how you can be more active in making sure we understand priorities through retreats, through one-on-one conversations, through all the different touch points we have through the year. I would also encourage you to continue to get to know our departments and our service lines. These individuals work very, very hard, and our executive team members who understand the needs that they have to continue those services all do an incredibly they do an exceptional job in working together, given that we've got one bucket of money we work from and we've got to balance the highest priorities. And there are times when public safety gets a lot of our investment because public safety is a very important service line that we deliver, police and fire. And so there are times when our Parks and Recreation Department is going to have to wait on something so public safety can get what they need in that year. And we rely upon the men and women in those departments to inform us on those decisions, and we rely on the leaders of those departments to help present a balanced budget to us. And I know that it can feel overwhelming, especially being so new in your role. And you have dealt with a lot that through my career, a lot of newly elected officials have not had to deal with. And we know that and we appreciate that. And so I just want to conclude by thanking you for approving the budget tonight so we can begin the work of laying the groundwork for fiscal year 24 and all the great things to come. And for our new council members and for our council on the whole, we'll look forward to working with you next year to help you feel like you have a better understanding of the process, more involved in that process, so that maybe next year we can have a 7-0 vote on our final budget. But I do thank you for the conversation. I thank you for the civil manner in which that dialogue occurred. And I want to thank again Kelly and her team and the entire executive team for the great work they do on almost a year-long process to bring this to conclusion to you tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Patrick. Now I'll move on to report from the Council on Current Events. Seeing none, move on to report from Mayor on Current Events. I have a statement about water and development. On June 1st, the Governor's Office released the updated Phoenix Active Management Area groundwater model, which showed a shortfall in groundwater available to meet already planned demands throughout the valley. As a result, the state has temporarily halted new assured water supply approvals for developments that rely solely on groundwater. I want to reassure our community that Gilbert is not affected by these actions, as we have a designation of assured water supply and are not solely dependent on groundwater. Gilbert is well positioned to continue to develop and thrive as we actively monitor the plan for changing conditions on the Colorado River. Gilbert will remain resilient and sustainable because of our diverse water portfolio, investment in infrastructure, and our water conservation and efficiency programs. Next, we have a slide up for the Heat Relief Network. We are taking donations. As you can see, items needed are bottled water, hats, light-colored t-shirts, sunblock, and there's a long list of donation sites if you would like to visit gilbertaz.gov and Heat Relief, or as you can see the little tag down there, or scan that QR code right there on your screen, and it will take you right where you need to go for the donations. We'd like to top what we did in 2019. Looks like that was our highest one at 14,285, and we would like to move higher than that. Next, we have the Parks Master Plan. Is that the next item on our Judy? Yes. The Parks Master Plan study is going on now and asking for our residents and business owners to participate in this plan, share your ideas to shape our future. And again, there's another great QR code there if you would like to scan that and participate and plan where you play here in Gilbert. This is our 10-year update for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I also have one other thing. The MIAC, Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, applications are now open. If anyone is interested in applying, that application is open until, and I just pulled that up, August 6th. We're extending this application out a little bit longer, so go to gilbertaz.gov and type in MIAC, M-Y-A-C, and it'll take you to the page that you need to be on. And now for a little fun. I was able to fly to Poland last week, and I spent time in Krakow and then Zakopane, where you can see the little block on the bottom of the map, and then up to Kalisz. And Kalisz happens to be the oldest city in the country of Poland, and they invited us there because they were having city days. And the organization called Bread of Life, which is a nonprofit that was started here in Gilbert, has a Gilbert address, invited myself and former council member Scott September to attend. The photo that you see there is my American flag at the delegates table that I was sitting at the mayor's reception hall, and those are the gifts that I presented to him. I want to thank Vice Mayor Tilke and our friend Robin Hansen for getting me the eagle. The eagle made it in one piece to Poland in my suitcase, which I was very concerned with. And then I also gave this book of Arizona photos that Craig and Barbara Barrett have provided photos for this book, and Barbara is the former Secretary of the Air Force, and she's also the chairman of the USS Arizona Legacy Foundation, which of course Gilbert has a connection to the new USS Arizona, and that book is in the Library of Congress. Next photo, Judy. We presented the gifts to the mayor. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name because it's very long and very Polish, but in Poland they refer to their mayors as president, so he is President Christian. I know that much, his first name. And then for my fire chief and police chief, the photo on the right was us presenting gifts that were sent to the fire chief and police chief there at another banquet that we attended. And it was a wonderful opportunity to meet people from around the world and share our Gilbert with them and get to know them, and they would like to maybe form a relationship with us. So I think that's something fun that we could potentially look forward to. So thanks for letting me indulge. They also let me go read books to a kindergarten class. I got to read English books to a kindergarten class because all of their kids are learning English. Every place we went, people spoke English in the country of Poland. So wonderful visit. If you have a chance to go, I highly recommend it. Thank you all, and that concludes our meeting, and I will go ahead and adjourn.